Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the dorm, episode 3 of Just Joshing. And this is the first ever attempt I've done at doing a visual podcast. So, hopefully, if that works out, you'll be seeing this on YouTube if you've chosen to watch it there, or you'll be listening on iTunes. Either way, thank you so much for listening. The dorm is up to about 1,300 downloads right now. I just wanted to start off by apologizing for why there was no official episode of the dorm on Sunday. That was because I didn't have a guest lined up, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you probably know that I uploaded my first ever YouTube video, which was me roasting all the previous YouTube accounts that I've made when I was younger, which were the likes of me playing the saxophone, me dancing to Michael Jackson, and also me attempting to vlog. So I tried to edit just the audio out of that, and I was tempted to put that up as its own podcast, but I really wasn't that happy with the footage, and I don't want to upload something that I'm not confident is good content, really. I only want to upload things that I'm really happy with. So that being said, yeah, apologies that there wasn't one. There should be a proper episode of The Dorm up this Sunday. Not totally sure who's going to guest yet, but we'll figure it out. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll be able to tell that I look incredibly tired right now, and that's true. So with work, I've been getting up at 5:50 in the morning, and I haven't been going to bed until far too late. Not for any reason in particular. I've just been sort of watching old episodes of Peep Show, really, and it means that I'm very sleep deprived right now. But I've got to crack out some content for you people because it's what I love to do, and got to keep you people listening. I can't just dive off the end of and have no content. I'm not totally sure how editing is going to work for doing this because while I'm recording with the camera, I also want to use the microphone audio because it's a lot better than anything my camera really picks up. So we'll see how that works out. Hopefully I managed to sync it up properly and it all looks good and stuff. So I have a couple of things to talk about in today's episode of Just Joshing. I don't really want to, I'm not going to drag it out. I was looking into my podcast analytics and it turns out people generally on average listen to about 30 minutes of the podcast. So I want to try and make episodes at sort of 30 minutes in length so that, people can actually, if that's the amount of time that people want to be listening, they can listen to the entirety of it. So yeah, I got a couple of things to talk about in today's episode. The first being Charlie Puth's new album has come out. That's a really difficult word for me to say given that I have a slight lisp, but Charlie Puth's new album is out called Voice Notes, and I think it is absolutely fantastic, and I don't know why more people aren't talking about it, to be honest. I looked on the iTunes charts and I expected it to be like number 1 or number 2 in albums, but none of the songs are up there in the charts, and it's also placed at number 12 in the album charts right now, which I think is crazy because in my opinion Charlie Puth is an absolutely crazy talented musician. I really like the style of music he has. It's very reminiscent of the 80s. It's very disco, poppy, but also I feel like he definitely has some impressions from Daft Punk coming in, which are really great. And yeah, I just think it's a totally brilliant album. I've been listening to it pretty much non-stop. I've been listening to it in the gym. It's got some pretty upbeat tunes that they've been good to work out to, but I've also been listening to it just while I've been cleaning at work and that kind of thing. And going to go through a couple of my favorite tracks. I'm not going to play them obviously, but I don't want to, because I don't want to get any kind of copyright strike. But I was thinking about this actually. I'd quite like to go into radio or explore the idea of doing radio, because that's essentially what I'm doing with a podcast. It's like a radio show without music. So I can only imagine that it would be better with the addition of music because it would, obviously just be slightly more entertaining. So, maybe that's a career path that I should consider / should look into a little bit, because it's just talking like this, talking to an audience. It'd be live, which would be, quite different. I'd have to learn how to not say and ah and that kind of thing quite as much as I do now. I realized that whilst recording my first YouTube video for this channel, that I say and like I'm doing right now, God, can't stop doing it. Jesus, I say things like all the time in between talking, and it meant that when I was making the video, I had to cut it out all the time, which meant a lot of jump cuts in between, which ideally I'd like to cut down on because I prefer to make content that is more of just a genuine conversation that I don't have to cut lots of things out of. Also, just it ends up being more effort for me to end up cutting things out of. But anyway, back on topic, talking about Charlie Puth. So his album's called Voice Notes, and it's called Voice Notes because he records a lot of his audio just in the voice notes section of his phone when he's first starting to create songs, which I think is really interesting. But I'm going to run through a couple of my favourite songs and just talk about why I like them so much. So I highly recommend that you check out this album if you haven't already. I wasn't in any way a big Charlie Puth fan before this album came out, or at least I heard about the album coming out and I listened to a few of the singles. I mean, obviously people have heard the song Attention and the song like See You Again, but this had great songs that weren't released as singles, which are just amazing. And I think they're so catchy and really well written and just generally great. So I think my favourite song at the minute, although it has been varying a bit, is a song called Slow It Down. And this is a song that's talking about Charlie going out with a younger girl and how he's sort of not trying to fall for her, but whenever he's trying to leave, she always just starts taking off her clothes, and that means that he, is obliged to stay. But yeah, it's called Slow It Down because it's him saying like, oh, come on, we need to slow down this relationship as a girl. You need to slow it down. And this is the one that definitely has the most sort of daft punky vibe. There's a way to describe it. It's very sort of it has very electronic vocals in parts, and I think it's so good. It's incredibly catchy. Another one of my favorites is Boy, which is about Charlie going out with an older girl and how, or an older woman rather. I mean, I don't really know how old Charlie Puth is or how old this woman, like lady. I don't know whether lady is the right word to use. I don't know if people would take offense to me saying the word lady. Hopefully not. But yeah, this older girl slash lady slash woman, whatever you'd like to call her, is essentially just using him for his sexual prowess and is not interested in continuing a relationship with him, even though that he'd quite like to have a relationship with her. And it's incredibly catchy, really great one. How Long is great. I think it's quite similar to, if you know the song Attention by Charlie Puth, How Long is quite similar to that in the sense that it kind of starts off, it sounds kind of sneaky in a sense, just the first little either piano notes or on a bass or whether it's on guitar. It just sounds kind of like little, it's really hard to describe, but it is like, he's described it like this, it's something sneaking. And so How Long is about him, he's like cheated on his girlfriend, and it's sort of, the chorus is, how long has this been going on? And that's another great song. I'm going to stop detailing them quite as much as I am. The Way I Am is great, and I actually relate to this song a fair bit. That's another thing about Charlie Puth. I think his music's very relatable generally. Not that I, have a lot of girl issues, but The Way I Am is, I can't relate to it totally because it's him saying like, oh, everyone's trying to be famous and he's trying to find a place to hide. And I kind of am trying to be famous by doing all of this. That kind of is part of, one of the end goals. But he's saying that you'll either love him or hate him, and that's just the way he is. And that's honestly how I feel about a lot of my content. I feel like generally people are massively supportive of this. I get very positive feedback from people. I haven't heard like nasty or mean things from people, but I know just by the nature of doing anything that, there are going to be people out there who probably dislike what I'm doing. And there are probably people, even, some of my friends and stuff, who think that this is stupid and think that I'm not, creating entertaining stuff. And that's fine. People are perfectly entitled to their own opinion. I have like a sense of anxiety in a sense that like people are kind of making fun of this behind my back. Hopefully they're not. I have literally no evidence to support this whatsoever. I don't know if it is just an anxiety thing because I am very openly putting all of this stuff out there. It's not just that I upload it to iTunes or I upload this to YouTube and it's like I don't tell anyone. I blast this all over my social media. So I understand that people could definitely be annoyed by the fact that I post on Facebook and I post on Instagram, and I'm probably going to start posting on Twitter about it as well. I have accounts for both, my personal account I do it from, and then I also do it from the dorms accounts. And I think that's fine, but also I can see how people could get very tired of that quickly, and that's very evident in the amount of likes that the posts I do get. So if I have about, I don't know, maybe 380 followers on Instagram, big deal. But if I post a random picture of me or me and some friends and I caption it whatever I think is, kind of funny, I'll get anywhere between maybe 120 likes and 140 likes. If I post something specifically about the dorm, like a picture from a recording of the dorm, and it's like, oh, episode 6 is live on iTunes right now, it'll get anywhere between like 30 and 70 likes. And I think it's kind of funny, such weird that people are like more willing to support a post that is just a random picture than something that is like, an actual dream of mine. It's kind of odd, but I guess that shows which of my friends genuinely care about this, which is, interesting and fine. But back on topic, yeah, I think that this is, what I'm doing here is the way I am. I'm quite outgoing in the sense that I want to be doing this. I want to post it everywhere online. And obviously people aren't going to, not everyone's going to love that. Some people are going to think it's stupid, and that's totally fine. I would say if you are making fun of me behind my back, not that I have any evidence of that, like, please don't. It's my dream and stuff. Like, although it may seem like really inconsequential to certain people, like, this is something that I actually really care about and I'm really passionate about, and I've wanted to do this for ages. And I'm making this seem like I have had any kind of negative feedback. I really haven't from anyone. I get nothing but lovely things said by everyone who's listened to the podcast. So maybe I'll round this off now by saying, not as in round off this topic. Yeah, thank you everyone who has given me positive feedback. It means the absolute world to me. When I get told by anyone that I made them laugh, like out loud, like a clip of, like a little bit of me and my friends talking, makes anyone laugh out loud, that's like goal complete for me. That's like the best possible news I could hear from anyone, is that I managed to make someone laugh out loud, because I do ultimately potentially want to be a comedian / do, comedy acting in some way. Not that I have any experience doing that. It's just something that I've always, not always, but I've had an idea of. And it's something that I'd really like to go into. I still haven't done my first stand-up gig, or not even gig, but, open mic night. I need to. I'm just very, very nervous about it. I have written some content for it, and I don't know. I'm considering maybe, recording me doing a little bit of it, but I think it might be weird, because when you're doing stand-up or you're watching a stand-up show, whether, live, obviously you get to hear people laugh, but also if you're watching it on Netflix or whatever, or just on TV, then you have everyone laughing, and it kind of makes you laugh along with it. But I feel like if I did record any attempts of me doing some kind of stand-up, I would need to, record, I'd need to have, a laugh track in the background just to get people kind of in the mood for laughing, because I think it'd also just be awkward doing stand-up to a camera and having no one there to sort of witness it, because then it's just awkward silence for me. I'd have to leave time for a joke, or leave time for laughter after a joke, and then there might not be any, and then you would just be sitting there in awkward silence, which wouldn't be totally brilliant for anyone, really. But yeah, I've been writing a couple of new jokes recently, and one thing that's definitely been helping me with that is, well, I wouldn't even say just helping me with the idea of writing jokes, but also just helping me with life in general, is I read a book called How Not to Be a Boy by Robert Webb, and I highly recommend it. I thought it was brilliant. It's like an autobiography, but it goes into a lot of detail of the difficulties he had growing up. So his mum died very young, when he was very young, and it talks about him struggling with, he really wanted to get into Cambridge, and then he messed up his A-levels the first time, had to do resits, and then eventually he got in, but then it also documents his struggle with sort of discovering his sexuality. And the whole book is kind of about the idea of what it means to be a boy, and what's expected from the male gender. And I thought it was very detailed and very, I don't want to say the word deep, but it raised some really great points about what it means to be a man in our society, and how that's, not particularly healthy a lot of the time. In the world, the top cause of death for men under 50 is suicide, and in the UK, three quarters of the suicides committed are by men, which is crazy. And I think it is, as Robert Webb very aptly put in his book, it's because we're taught as men to cover up our emotions and to just kind of push them down as much as possible and not tell anyone when we're feeling bad, which you shouldn't do, by the way, just as a general point. Like, someone's always out there ready to talk to you if you need someone to talk to. Talk to me. Yeah. Where was I going with this? Oh, comedy. Right. Very sidetracked there. But so Robert Webb is a comedian, if you don't know him. He's a British comedian. He does a lot of work with David Mitchell, who actually went to Abingdon School, which is the school that me and a lot of my friends went to. And yeah, they met at Cambridge and they went on to write comedy. And I think to write comedy, you have to have... I mean, a lot of great comedians have sort of messed up backgrounds, and I really don't. I've had a very privileged, very nice life, but that's not to say that there hasn't been, struggle in certain areas. I've had body issues in terms of the way that I look for a very long time, since I was probably like 12, 13. I've had issues with the way that I look, probably. Getting over those, but I think you have to have a little bit of hurt somewhere to be able to write comedy, because a lot of comedy does come from quite a dark place. But I think a lot of the comedy that I want to be talking about is going to come from the funny stories that I've had with my friends and that I'm still making now, but also stories from my childhood. So talking about like teaching my mum how to play the saxophone, and talking about stuff from secondary school and primary school and stuff that's happened at university so far. And I think that the key to being a good comic really is being able to, well, in my mind, a lot of the funniest comedians is not just being able to insult the crowd or come up with one-liners, but it's to be able to sort of find a lot of humor in yourself, even if it's somewhat of a difficult situation for you. Like, if you can find an element of comedy in that, then I think that's a really relatable way of making people laugh. If you can tell personal stories that, actually happened to you rather than just making them up. So, yeah, I think my initial stand-up, I think I'm definitely going to put a lot of emphasis on the story of teaching my mum how to play the saxophone, because I can spin that in quite a funny way. But, oh gosh, I just got a new match on Tinder. Very exciting. I re-downloaded Tinder recently because what with being home alone and everyone, all of my friends are basically still being at uni, I'm just very bored, and I don't have, I obviously have people to talk to in terms of like on Messenger and stuff, but I'm just very bored at not actually bored overall at home. I'm having a lovely time being home, but I mean that when I'm just sat in my room, I don't really have much else to do. So Tinder's quite an entertaining way of keeping yourself busy if you don't have much else to do. Where was I going with all of this? Robert Webb's book, How Not to Be a Boy. Read it. I think it's great. I want to try and read a bit more. That was one of my New Year's resolutions for the year, was read more. And so far I've read one book, which is that one. But I actually read the whole thing in like a couple of days just because it really hooked me in. I don't know if other people are like that, but I find that I don't read for ages, and then suddenly I'll actually find a book that I really like, and that means that I'll actually put in effort into reading it. But How Not to Be a Boy is great, and sort of with the idea of going over Robert Webb's life and just any autobiography really, and finding humor in that, I was thinking maybe in some of these episodes of Just Joshing, I would go over parts of my childhood, just so you know, whether you know me really well, or whether you know me a little bit, or whether you've never met me and this is the first time you've ever watched one of these podcasts or listened to one of these podcasts, you could just get to know me a little bit better. So, hello, my name is Josh Ascroft. I was born in Oxford, England, and it's where I've lived pretty much all of my life. I don't live in Oxford. I live in a town that's like 40 minutes outside of Oxford, but it's a lot easier, especially when I'm over in the States, to say, oh, I'm from Oxford, because people have actually heard of it. So I want to start by talking about my primary school years, because I mean, I had a great time in primary school, and there are some funny things about being that age. So if you don't know, if you're not from the UK, primary school, I suppose, is like elementary school. You're there from the age of either 4 or 5 is when you start, and then you finish when you are 11. Um, I didn't actually technically finish primary school. Well, I did finish primary school. I finished primary school a year early because I peaked academically aged about 9. I don't know if other people can relate to that, but I don't know why. I just got on with work really well at that age, and I found it all quite simple. And I just did all of the work from the last year. I did it all in my penultimate year, which led me to trying out to get into Abingdon, which is a private school that I ended up at, and then getting in there. But yeah, I definitely peaked academically aged in terms of probably natural talent and also actual drive. Peaked at around 9 or 10, I think, which isn't ideal for someone who's currently at university pursuing a degree. But I'm making my way through. I've survived just about until now. But yeah, I was quite a funny kid in primary school, I think, in terms of just, I mean, I think everyone's a bit weird at that age, but I was massively into Star Wars, which I mean, I still am now. I loved dancing, I loved singing. I loved High School Musical more than anything. I think I wanted to be Zac Efron more than anything, well, specifically Troy Bolton more than anything in the entire world. Um, High School Musical, I loved it. I lived it pretty much. Me and my friend, you'd like be in a primary school or whatever. You'd be in the playground and you meet up, and like sometimes we'd play Pirates of the Caribbean or we'd play Star Wars, and then like one of us would be like Will Turner and Captain Jack, and then one of the girls would be like um, Elizabeth Turner, and one is that Keira Knightley's character? Elizabeth? Yeah, I think so. No. Yeah, sure. No. Something like that. And one would be like someone would be Barbossa and that kind of thing, or someone would be Princess Leia, someone would be Han Solo when we're playing Star Wars. I would always insist that we'd play High School Musical as well. Obviously, I'd be Troy because obviously. And it got to such a stage that I'd sing it all the time, and I remember I was so totally obsessed with it. I remember going to the cinema with my friend Harry and watching High School Musical 3 together. And when we came out, one of the songs was called like "The Boys Are Back." And when we came out, we were trying to do all the dancing. We were like jumping off the walls and stuff, like "The boys are back." Like it was so. If I could watch footage of me as that kind of age, which I can actually, because I mean, watch the video of me roasting myself, which is on this YouTube channel. Oh, if you want to find the video, if you're listening to this as like an audio podcast, then my YouTube channel name is just Josh Ascroft, but then you're not going to find it just immediately, I doubt, because, I mean, it's not a popular channel in any way. So if you just do like Josh Ascroft, like if you type in Josh Ascroft roasting myself, you'll probably find it. In fact, you definitely will find it. I've looked, it will come up. So yeah, I have footage of me at around 9/10 dancing, but then we also have footage of me in pantomimes, because I used to be in pantomimes when I was younger. But back on topic, sorry, to High School Musical, I'll get back into pantos in a little bit. So I was in the school talent show with my friend Martha, who I remember at the time I desperately wanted to be my girlfriend, and she always rejected me. So, very heartbroken young Josh. But that didn't mean that I couldn't convince her to sing with me, because she was very good at singing, and I could actually sing at that point because my voice hadn't broken and I still had the voice of an angel. And we sang Breaking Free from High School Musical 1 together, and we won the talent show. I remember, I'm pretty sure I still have the trophy. So Martha, if you're listening / watching this, apologies, because I remember there was a time that we swapped the trophy back and forth. Like one of us would keep it for a little bit and then we'd swap it over. I just have it, so sorry. It's mine now, I guess. I'm just gonna keep it. Gosh, I feel so tired. I really apologize to anyone who's watching this on YouTube, because I can only imagine the bags under my eyes look absolutely terrible right now. I also showered directly before this, so my hair is all weird. But for you audio listeners, you're getting a great time, because I sound just as joyful as ever, and you can't see how bad I look, which is always a positive thing. Um, so yeah, me and Martha won the talent show. We got our trophy. And I remember like a dinner lady who was there. Or it wasn't a dinner lady. She might have been one of the people who like looked after us, who was like out on the playground at lunchtime, just making sure that we were all, not dying and stuff. Came up and was like, "Oh, that was quite a romantic song, wasn't it?" And we were like, "Oh, stop! Oh my god!" Because like when you're that age, you have to. It's weird because I remember simultaneously wanting to have what I thought, was a girlfriend at that point, and also thinking like, "Ugh, girls are gross, girls are stupid." But then I went to not a particularly typical primary school in the sense that my primary school had about 60 people in it. It only had about 20 when I first joined the school. And there were 9 people in my year group. So in my grade, if you're in America or anywhere else that uses a grade system, so there were 2 other boys other than me and 6 girls. So you kind of had to just deal with the fact that you were going to be friends with girls. We didn't really have much of a divide at all. I was in a tiny school, but I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. I had such a good time there. Shout out to Shellingford. Not that anyone from Shellingford School is listening, and if they are, they definitely shouldn't be, because that means they're a maximum of like 11, and some of the stories I tell are not appropriate for that. But I remember, I think I have like pretty much just one distinct memory from primary school or like one, like, it's like my horrific memory from primary school. So we had a football coach, a guy called Phil, and we just called him Mr. Phil, even though Phil was definitely his first name. And me and my friend Harry, or like, we're not really friends anymore. I don't know, I've seen him every now and then, but like, that's just when our parents are together and stuff, we like say hello. But anyway, at the time, he was my best friend when we were really young. And my mum was telling me today, actually, Mr. Phil would always have to yell, Josh, Harry, when he was trying to get our attention, because we'd just be talking to each other while he was trying to explain something to the group, or we'd just be spinning around in circles. And spinning around in circles is what brought me to relive this horrific memory that I had. So I remember, as this was a very small school, everyone was very close. So the older kids would like help out the younger kids and help look after us. So we were all pretty close. Just because it was such a tiny school, everyone knew everyone really well. You knew everyone's name. And I remember Mr. Phil's son, who I'm pretty sure was called Will. It was either Will or Dan. Let's say Will. I'm pretty sure it was Will. Mr. Phil's son, Will Phil, was there at the school, and he was in year 6 when I was in foundation, which is your first year, foundation or reception, whatever you want to call it, first year of primary school. So he was like, I remember he was like the coolest kid in school, and he liked me and Harry. It was good. We were like, he'd taken us under his wing a little bit, and that was good for a 5-year-old. We were living the high life, under, Will showing us the ropes and all that. But I remember there was a day where I was spinning around in a circle, and I had my arms out, like so, if you're watching, and I was spinning around, and Will was next to me, and I accidentally spun around and just smacked him in the nuts, and like he went down like a sack of potatoes, like he just fell to the ground, and I was like, oh my god, I just hit the most popular kid in school in the balls, and he's on the floor, and he looks quite upset about it, and then suddenly one of the people who, looked after us at lunchtime rushed over, and I was like, I didn't do it on purpose, because I genuinely didn't. I remember it was very much an accident, and then she accused me, a 5-year-old, of doing it on purpose. She was like, no, you did, I saw you hit him, and I was like, I didn't do it. I remember I definitely started crying. I was very upset. But I remember what happened next was sort of the cringiest and weirdest part of all of this, is that I explained to my mum what happened when I got home that day. I was very upset, because, Will was my old cool friend, and I'd potentially ruined it by hitting him in the balls really hard. So I wrote him, I remember I made him a card, like I coloured it in on the front, and it was like, Dear Will, really sorry, really, really, really sorry that I hit you in the balls. Hope you feel better. I really hope I said hope you feel better, not hope they feel better. But I said hope you feel better, like, from Josh. and then I attached some sweets, and I'm pretty certain, I don't totally remember if I did, I'm pretty certain I also gave like a tub of Sudocrem, a little tub with it, which is so weird. But I was 5, and I don't think I asked my mum for help when it came to what I was going to give him to make it better. But when I was that age, Sudocrem, if you don't know, it's like a nappy rash thing, but you can also put it on like cuts to stop stuff from getting infected, or at least that's what I did when I was younger, because I had the belief that Sudocrem could basically fix anything. That's what I thought. So I was like, hey, this always works for me. It was a kind gesture. I was like, here, have this, but, it was weird. It's definitely a weird thing for a child to have done. Yeah, that's just a really weird memory. I don't know why, out of all the things that happened to me during my years growing up in primary school, but that memory from when I was 5 is distinctly stuck in my brain, and it's pretty odd, to be honest. I don't know why that chose to remain in my brain, but I always think about it, like whenever I think back to primary school, and it's just weird. I think I have more, memories from primary school that I can talk about. I'll have to like think about primary school a bit more and then maybe write them down for the next episode of Just Joshing. But I think I'm going to wrap it up here today because I've run over 30 minutes or so, and that's what I want to keep these podcast episodes to be about. So thanks so much for listening, or watching. If you're watching this and this is on YouTube, that's great if I managed to do that. Hopefully the editing goes well and you can actually hear me. Thank you so much. If you're listening to this on iTunes, if you could rate 5 stars and leave a review, that would be amazing. Really helps me out. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. I'll be uploading. All the podcasts will now be visual, hopefully, and will be uploaded onto here. I'm also going to be uploading little video clips of highlights of the podcast, so with guests mostly, and I'll just be turning them into the little videos where I throw up. I cut myself off there and it sounded weird. It sounded like where I throw up. I mean, where I put up images alongside it. So where I'm using, audio podcast clips, I'll put up images that sort of refer to what I'm talking about just to tie it together nicely. But then I'll probably end up doing that a bit less when I have, footage of me recording visually with someone else. I can just upload that clip. But yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, like the video, subscribe. Thank you so much to everyone for watching / listening, and I will see you in the next one.